Aquarius, can I be honest with you for a moment? The person you will marry is not the one you dreamed about when you were younger. They are the one you needed to become strong enough to deserve. Because the love that's coming into your life doesn't arrive with chaos, it arrives with peace. And that kind of love only finds you after you've learned how to walk alone. If this already feels like it's talking about you, comment below, I'm ready to receive. Now listen carefully, because the way this person enters your life is not how you expect it to happen. And once you recognize the sign, you won't be able to unsee it. Aquarius, let me speak to you like I would to one single soul sitting across from me, late at night, when the world is quiet and you finally allow yourself to breathe. There is something about you that most people never really see. You move through life looking calm, independent, composed, but inside, you've always been carrying a deeper question. Not will I be loved, but will I ever be truly understood? Because for you, love was never meant to be loud. It was meant to be meaningful. And somewhere along the way, you stopped wanting fireworks and started wanting safety. Not safety from life, but safety inside someone's heart. You've had connections before. Real ones. People who touched your life, changed you, even broke you a little. And yet, none of them quite felt like the place your soul could rest. They taught you lessons, yes, but they didn't feel like the destination. And maybe you've wondered, quietly, without saying it out loud, why do I keep meeting the right people at the wrong time? Or the wrong people when I finally feel ready? Here's the part that's rarely talked about. Aquarius doesn't attract shallow love. You attract unfinished people. People who are still learning themselves. People who see your light before they learn how to protect it. That's why your heart had to grow stronger before it could grow softer again. You didn't lose time. You gained discernment. You learned the difference between attention and presence. Between chemistry and compatibility. Between someone who wants you and someone who is ready to build with you. And that changes everything. Because the person who is coming into your life now does not arrive to fill a void. They arrive to walk beside you. Not ahead of you. Not behind you. But at the same pace. This is someone who won't rush you. They won't need to be chased. They won't make you question your value in moments of silence. Their presence feels steady, consistent, almost familiar. Like a conversation that doesn't exhaust you. Like a home you didn't know you were missing. And here's a question I want you to sit with. Jen, when was the last time you felt calm around someone without needing to perform, explain, or protect yourself? Because that feeling is the real sign. Not butterflies, not obsession, not emotional intensity, but ease. A quiet sense that your nervous system can finally relax. You're entering a phase of life where your soul no longer wants to be impressed. It wants to be met. It wants to be seen without effort, chosen without games, loved without conditions that change every season. And the love that finds you now will not feel like falling. It will feel like arriving, slowly, softly, in a way that doesn't disrupt your life but gently aligns with it. Almost as if the universe waited until you stopped searching to finally bring you what you were always meant to experience. Not a story that burns fast, but one that stays warm. And as you listen to this, I want you to notice something inside yourself. Not excitement, not longing, but recognition. Because some part of you already knows the love that is meant for you now will not need to convince you. It will simply feel true. Aquarius, there is a quiet kind of sadness you've carried that almost no one ever notices. Not the kind that cries out. The kind that sits gently behind your eyes when you scroll through other people's lives and wonder, just for a second, why yours unfolded so differently. You watch people rush into love, rush out of it, start again like nothing ever broke inside them. And you stayed still, not because you were afraid, but because something in you refused to pretend. You didn't want a story just to say you had one. You wanted truth, depth. A connection that didn't collapse the moment real life entered the room. And sometimes that choice felt lonely. Not dramatic lonely. Just the kind where you sit with yourself on quiet evenings and ask softly, did I miss something everyone else found? But what if you didn't miss anything at all? What if you were standing exactly where you needed to be? You see, most people learn about love by repeating the same mistakes. You learn by observing them. By feeling what didn't sit right in your body. By noticing what drained you instead of nourished you. You learned how to say no without guilt. How to walk away without explaining yourself. How to recognize energy before words. That's not delay. That's discernment. You were learning how to protect your heart without closing it. how to stay open without becoming available to chaos, how to be alone without feeling empty. And that is a rare kind of preparation. Because when the right person finally steps into your life, they won't need to undo damage. They won't need to rescue you. They won't need to compete with your past. They will meet you in your wholeness, not your wounds. There's a difference between being single and being unfinished. You were never unfinished. You were just becoming more precise about what you allow into your world. And here's something gentle I want to ask you. When was the moment you realized you'd rather be alone than misunderstood? That moment changed everything. It shifted your frequency. It taught the universe what kind of love you are no longer available for. It closed doors quietly, without drama. And it opened space for something that moves slower, deeper, and more intentionally. You didn't arrive late to love. You arrived with boundaries, with emotional literacy, with a nervous system that no longer confuses intensity for intimacy. You arrived as someone who knows the difference between connection and attachment, between desire and alignment, between someone who excites you and someone who feels safe enough to stay. And now, without you forcing anything, life is rearranging itself around your readiness. Conversations feel different. Your standards feel clearer. Your energy feels less restless. Not because you stopped wanting love, but because you stopped chasing it. And the love that comes to you now will not be rushed. It will recognize you the way you finally recognize yourself, not as someone waiting to be chosen, but as someone who already knows their worth. That's why nothing was wasted. Not the silence, not the endings, not the nights you questioned your own timing. You weren't late. You were being shaped. And now you are standing at the point where preparation turns into invitation. Aquarius, there is a moment in life when your heart stops searching for intensity and starts listening for truth. Not the kind of truth that excites you, the kind that settles you. And the person who steps into your life from this place will feel different from anyone before. Not because they are extraordinary in a dramatic way, but because they are steady in a world that taught you how rare that really is. They do not need to announce themselves. They do not need to impress you with stories, promises, or emotional fireworks. Their presence speaks quietly, through consistency, through the way they stay. This is someone who knows who they are when no one is watching. Someone who has already faced their own shadows and does not expect you to carry them. They have learned how to sit with discomfort without running, how to communicate without hurting, how to love without losing themselves. You will notice it in small things first, in the way they listen without interrupting, in how they remember what matters to you, in how their words and actions finally align, and something inside you will soften, not because you are falling, but because you are no longer bracing for impact. This person does not bring chaos into your life. They bring clarity. They do not create emotional highs and lows. They create emotional safety. You will feel it in your body before you understand it in your mind. Your breathing slows down around them. Your thoughts become quieter. Your nervous system stops scanning for exits. And that calm might feel unfamiliar at first. You may even question it. Is this too simple, too peaceful, too easy? But what if ease is the sign you were always waiting for? What if the real soulmate connection is not the one that consumes you, but the one that finally gives you space to exist fully as yourself? This person does not need to rescue you. They respect your independence. They admire your mind. They are not threatened by your depth, your silence, your need for meaning. They do not try to change you. They meet you. They do not rush your emotions. They honor your pace. And slowly, without effort, you begin to trust again. Not because you force yourself to, but because nothing in them feels unsafe. Here is a gentle question for you. When was the last time you felt relaxed being exactly who you are, without feeling like you had to earn love? Because that is the energy this connection carries. You will not feel like you are auditioning for a role. You will not feel like you are competing with their past. You will not feel like love is something that can be taken away at any moment. Instead, it feels grounded. Like standing barefoot on solid earth after years of walking on unstable ground. This is someone who understands commitment as presence, not control. Someone who sees partnership as growth, not sacrifice. Someone who chooses you daily, not out of obligation, but out of alignment. And what makes this even more powerful is that they arrive when you are no longer asking to be chosen. They find you in your fullness, in your clarity, in your quiet confidence. Not when you are trying to prove your worth, but when you already know it. That is why this connection feels less like fate and more like recognition. Two people who have done enough inner work to finally meet each other without fear. Not to complete each other, but to walk side by side. And when you look back one day, you will realize something beautiful. The love you waited for did not come to save you. It came to meet you where you already stand. Awake. Ready. Aquarius, there is a kind of love you once believed only existed in stories. Not because it was unrealistic, but because you had never experienced it without conditions. For so long, love felt like effort, like decoding signals, like reading between lines that were never meant to be unclear in the first place. You learned how to stay alert, how to anticipate shifts in energy, how to protect your heart before it even had a chance to relax. So when this love begins to touch your life, it may feel almost unfamiliar. Not exciting in the way chaos once was, but gentle, steady, uncomplicated. You will notice it in how you are treated when you are quiet, when you are tired, when you are not performing, not impressing, not giving anything extra. They do not disappear in those moments. They lean in. You won't feel the need to explain yourself constantly. You won't feel pressure to be more than you are. You won't feel like love is something that could vanish if you stop trying. Their presence is consistent. Not intense. Not unpredictable. Just real. And that reality becomes the most healing thing your heart has ever known. They listen in a way that makes you feel heard even when you say very little. They remember the things you casually mention and bring them back weeks later. Not to prove anything, but because they genuinely pay attention to your inner world. They adapt softly. Not by changing who they are, but by meeting you where you are. You will feel it when disagreements arise. There is no emotional punishment, no silent withdrawal, no games. There is conversation, curiosity, a desire to understand rather than to win, and slowly something shifts inside you. The part of you that was always bracing for disappointment begins to rest. The part of you that learned to stay strong begins to feel safe enough to soften. You start sleeping deeper, breathing slower, laughing without overthinking the moment. And at first, that calm might feel strange. You might even wonder if something is missing, because your nervous system was trained to associate love with tension. But what if peace is not emptiness? What if peace is presence? What if love was never meant to feel like a battle, but like a quiet place you return to at the end of the day? Here is something beautiful you will notice. You will not feel anxious about their feelings for you. You will not question your place in their life. You will not feel like you need to compete with anything or anyone. Their love is not loud, but it is deeply reliable. And there is a specific kind of intimacy that grows from this. Not the kind that burns fast, but the kind that builds slowly through trust, shared routines, and mutual respect. The kind where you can sit in silence together and feel connected. The kind where your vulnerability feels protected, not exposed. The kind where being yourself is not risky. Let me ask you something gently. When was the last time someone made you feel emotionally safe without asking for anything in return? Because that feeling is what your heart has been waiting for all along. This person does not treat you as a role to fill. They treat you as a person to know. They do not want to own you. They want to understand you. And for someone like you, Aquarius, who has always valued freedom, depth, and authenticity, this kind of love becomes sacred. Not because it is perfect, but because it is honest. It gives you space to breathe, to grow, to exist without fear of being abandoned for simply being human. This is the love that doesn't require armor. The love that doesn't demand proof. The love that meets you exactly where you stand. And in that space, something inside you finally whispers, this is what it was supposed to feel like. Not intense, not dramatic, just true. There is a moment, Aquarius, when you realize something inside you has shifted. Not because life suddenly became perfect, but because your heart stopped preparing for impact. You are no longer scanning for hidden meanings. No longer replaying conversations in your mind. No longer trying to sense where the ground might disappear. Instead, you feel present. Not hyper-aware. Just here. And that is how you know this connection is different. It does not arrive with fireworks or emotional storms. It arrives like a quiet alignment between two rhythms. Like two frequencies finally recognizing each other. You are not pulled into it. You are not pushed into it. You simply find yourself standing inside something that feels right. Not dramatic. Not addictive. Just deeply natural. This love does not awaken your old wounds. It speaks to the parts of you that were tired of surviving. The parts that wanted to experience love without self-protection. You notice it in how your body responds. Your shoulders drop, your breath slows. Your thoughts stop racing ahead. You feel safe enough to be honest. Not only about your dreams, but about your doubts, your fears, your unfinished healing. And nothing collapses when you reveal those layers. Nothing breaks. Nothing pulls away. Instead, you feel accepted in real time. For someone like you, who has always lived inside their mind, this feels almost revolutionary. Because love is no longer something you analyze. It is something you experience. You are not trying to be impressive. You are not trying to stay interesting. You are not trying to hold their attention. You are simply being. And that is the rarest form of intimacy. This connection does not ignite chaos in your nervous system. It calms it. It reminds your heart what regulation feels like. What stability feels like. What emotional balance feels like. It is not butterflies. It is breathing again. Breathing without effort. Breathing without tension. Breathing without waiting for the next emotional shift. There is something quietly powerful about a love that flows toward you. Not because you earned it, but because it recognizes you. You do not feel like you are proving your value. You feel like your value is already understood. And that changes everything. You start making choices from peace instead of fear. You start listening to your intuition instead of your anxiety. You start trusting your emotions without questioning their legitimacy. This is not the kind of love that consumes your identity. It supports it. It does not replace your freedom. It expands it. You are still independent, still curious, still evolving. But now you are evolving with someone who sees you not as a mystery to solve, but as a soul to walk beside. And here is the part that might surprise you the most. This connection does not feel urgent. It feels patient. There is no rush to define it. No pressure to control it. No fear that time is working against you. It unfolds in its own rhythm. Like a story that trusts itself enough to move slowly. Let me ask you something softly. When was the last time you felt emotionally aligned with someone without losing yourself in the process? Because that is what makes this bond sacred. Not the intensity, not the romance, not the fantasy, but the sense that you can finally exist in love without abandoning who you are. This relationship does not feel like a lesson. It feels like a homecoming, not to another person, but to the version of you that no longer needs to struggle for connection. And in that quiet recognition, you begin to understand something profound. Love was never meant to feel like a chase. It was meant to feel like a return. There is a softness that enters your life when you stop imagining love as a destination and start feeling it as something you live inside. Not in grand moments, not in perfect scenes, but in the quiet architecture of everyday life. This is where the real story begins, Aquarius. Not in promises, but in presence. You begin to notice how love shows up when nothing special is happening. In the way mornings feel less rushed. In the way silence feels comfortable instead of empty. In the way your future no longer feels abstract. This person does not want to escape the world with you. They want to build one with you. A world made of small rituals, shared coffee, late dinners, inside jokes that no one else understands, plans that stretch beyond next week. They are not interested in performing love. They are interested in practicing it. You see it in how they listen to your ideas without trying to reshape them. In how they support your growth without feeling threatened by it. In how they stand beside you instead of standing in front of you. For the first time, you feel like your independence is not something you need to protect. It is something that is respected. And that changes the way you dream. Your goals no longer feel like lonely mountains. They feel like landscapes you get to explore together. Your ambitions are not competing energies. They are parallel paths moving in the same direction. This is not a love that asks you to shrink. It invites you to expand. You start thinking in years instead of moments, in seasons instead of impulses, in shared timelines instead of separate plans. Not because you are losing yourself, but because you finally feel safe enough to include someone in your future. There is something deeply healing about knowing someone wants to age with you. Not just be entertained by you. Not just be inspired by you, but to witness your entire evolution, the wrinkles, the changes, the chapters you cannot predict. They want the long version of you, not the highlight reel. And for someone like you, who has always existed a little ahead of time, this feels grounding. It brings your mind back into your body. It teaches your nervous system that stability is not boredom. It is trust. You are no longer chasing intensity. You are choosing continuity. This partnership does not revolve around constant excitement. It revolves around reliability, emotional consistency, mutual respect. You feel it in the way conflicts are handled, with calm, with curiosity, with the intention to understand, not to win. There is no fear of being replaced, no anxiety about being enough, no need to perform strength. You are allowed to rest in this connection, to be human, to be imperfect, to be real. And that is where something beautiful happens. You start building a life that feels sustainable, not glamorous, not dramatic, but deeply meaningful. A life where love is not the center of everything, but the foundation of everything. Let me ask you something gently. What kind of future would you create if you knew you were not building it alone? Because this is what true partnership offers you. Not escape from reality, but a deeper connection to it. You are no longer surviving together. You are designing a life where your dreams are not postponed. They are protected. Where your individuality is not lost. It is honored. And slowly, without any dramatic turning point, you realize something has shifted inside you. Love is no longer something you search for. It is something you return to, not as fantasy, not as longing, but as a shared existence that feels quietly powerful. This is not romance as spectacle. This is love as a home you keep choosing every day. And in that choice, you discover that the greatest adventure was never falling in love. It was learning how to stay. There is a quiet moment that arrives in your life when you realize something has changed inside you. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a soft recognition. Like noticing the air feels different after a long storm. You are no longer willing to bend your soul just to feel chosen. You are no longer impressed by half-presence. You are no longer available for connections that ask you to carry the emotional weight alone. And this shift did not come from bitterness. It came from wisdom, because earlier in your life, you were still learning who you were when no one was watching. You were still discovering the parts of yourself that needed healing. Still mistaking intensity for intimacy. Still believing that love had to hurt in order to be real. You stayed too long in places that drained you. You explained yourself to people who were not listening. You gave chances to those who were only passing through your life. Not because you were weak, but because you were open. And openness without boundaries often feels like love, until it teaches you the cost of being available to the wrong energy. Now, something inside you is different. Your nervous system is calmer. Your intuition is sharper. Your standards are no longer built on fear of being alone. They are built on self-respect. You do not rush connection anymore. You observe it, you feel it. You allow time to reveal what words cannot. And the universe responds to this version of you, not by bringing more people into your life, but by filtering them. Because permanent love does not arrive when you are searching for it. It arrives when you stop chasing temporary experiences that distract you from your truth. You have learned the difference between attention and devotion, between attraction and alignment, between someone who wants you in the moment and someone who wants you in their future. This is why it happens later for you. Not as a delay, but as a refinement. The universe had to wait until you stopped entertaining connections that were not designed to last. Until you were no longer trying to prove your worth through endurance. Until you no longer confused patience with self-abandonment. You are no longer available for emotional chaos disguised as passion. You are no longer impressed by people who show up inconsistently. You are no longer interested in love that feels uncertain. And this is the moment when something rare becomes possible. Because real love requires space. It needs maturity to recognize it. It needs emotional capacity to hold it. It needs a nervous system that feels safe enough to stay. Earlier in your life, you would have accepted potential. Now you require presence. Earlier, you would have hoped someone would change. Now you notice who they already are. Earlier, you would have stayed for the idea of what could be. Now, you choose what actually exists. This is not loneliness. This is discernment. This is not being closed off. This is being selective with your energy. And here is the truth most people never realize. The universe does not withhold love from you. It protects you from what would have delayed your becoming. It keeps temporary people moving through your life until you are no longer available to be taught the same lesson twice. Let me ask you something softly. What kind of love could enter your life now that you are no longer negotiating your worth? Because when you stop being accessible to what is unstable, you become magnetic to what is real. Not through effort, not through searching, but through alignment. And that is why your love story unfolds later. Not because you missed something, but because you finally became someone who could receive something lasting. Not a distraction, not a lesson, but a home. There is a strange kind of peace that comes when you stop looking over your shoulder for what is missing. Not because everything is perfect, but because nothing feels desperate anymore. You are not scanning rooms for connection. You are not rereading old messages. You are not asking the universe to hurry up. Something inside you has softened, not into weakness, into trust. And this is the moment love begins to recognize you, not as someone searching, but as someone ready, because love does not respond to urgency. It responds to alignment. It moves toward the version of you that feels at home in their own life. The one who enjoys their mornings, their silence, their routines, their quiet victories no one applauds. You are no longer waiting for someone to save you from loneliness. You have learned how to sit with yourself, to enjoy your own company, to make space inside your life instead of chasing escape from it. And that space becomes magnetic. Love starts to approach in subtle ways. Through conversations that feel effortless. Through timing that no longer feels forced. Through a sense of recognition that does not need fireworks to feel real. It does not interrupt your life. It blends into it. You will not feel pulled. You will feel accompanied, not as a thrill, but as a calm presence that feels strangely familiar. As if your nervous system already knows this person before your mind tries to understand it. This is how it arrives for you, without drama, without tests, without emotional turbulence disguised as passion. It arrives gently, because it does not need to convince you of anything. It does not ask you to change. It does not ask you to perform. It does not ask you to heal faster or become smaller. It meets you exactly where you are and somehow feels like it belongs there. You will notice it in simple moments. In how silence feels comfortable instead of awkward. In how disagreements feel safe instead of threatening. In how you feel more yourself instead of less. And one day, almost without realizing it, you will understand something. The best relationship of your life did not arrive as a story you had to survive. It arrived as a life you were finally allowed to enjoy. Not a lesson, not a challenge, not a transformation through pain, but a partnership that feels like exhaling. This is the kind of love Aquarius grows into, not the kind that burns fast, but the kind that warms slowly, the kind that stays when nothing dramatic is happening, the kind that chooses you in ordinary moments. And perhaps that is the real miracle. Not finding someone extraordinary, but finding someone who makes ordinary life feel sacred. Someone who does not rescue you from yourself, but walks beside the person you have already become. You are not waiting anymore. You are living. And love is learning how to keep up with you. Quietly, steadily, without announcing itself. It is not rushing, because it knows where you are. Let me ask you one final question, softly. What if the love you have been waiting for has been waiting for the version of you that no longer needed to be found? Because when you stop chasing the future finally feels safe enough to come to you. And when it does, it will not feel like fate knocking loudly on your door. It will feel like someone already inside your life turning to you one day and simply staying. And before you go, I want you to take one slow breath with me, not to manifest anything, not to wish for someone, just to feel where you are right now. Because the most powerful thing about your journey, Aquarius, is not who is coming into your life. It is who you have become while waiting. You are no longer chasing love. You are becoming a place love feels safe to stay. That is rare. That is sacred. That is earned. If this message reached you tonight, it is not an accident. It is a reminder. A reminder that you do not need to rush. You do not need to prove. You do not need to compare your timeline to anyone else's. Your love story is unfolding at the exact speed your soul can handle. And the universe is not testing you anymore. It is finally trusting you. Trusting that you know what you deserve. Trusting that you will recognize real love when it arrives. Trusting that you will not abandon yourself to keep someone else. So here is my quiet blessing for you. May the love that finds you feel gentle on your nervous system. May it feel calm in your body. May it feel honest in your heart. May it feel like home in your spirit. Not perfect, but peaceful. Not dramatic, but deeply real. If this message resonated with you, leave a comment and tell me one word you want your future relationship to feel like. And if you are part of this Aquarius journey, subscribe and stay with us. There is more coming. More messages. More healing. More truth. Because your story is not ending here. It is just becoming quieter, softer, more aligned. And sometimes, the most meaningful chapters are the ones that arrive without making any noise at all. Trust yourself. You are exactly where you need to be. The next message is already on its way.